With a little downtime until the Halloween process begins again, I thought it'd be fun to revisit another real-life spooky Halloween story. This one involves my experience with the Black Angel, located in Oakland Cemetery in Iowa City, Iowa. Although the statue is just the backdrop to a larger story, it definitely adds some creepiness to this spooky tale. I always thought this story would make a great first two acts of a horror movie. The end is more real life than Hollywood, but they tend to take a bit of creative license to all those based on a true story movies anyways. There are plenty of ways for this to end in true Hollywood fashion. My experience with the local Iowa City legend came when I was attending the University of Iowa. The land surrounding Oakland Cemetery, where the statue is located, has been developed in recent years, and the cemetery itself has expanded quite a bit, but at the time of the story, much of the surrounding area was forest. The story began as two members of my dorm floor were taking a study break late one night during finals week. On the outskirts of campus was a convenience store. They stopped in to pick up a few snacks and took a walk to get some air. Also located along the outskirts of the campus was Oakland Cemetery. As they were walking by, they saw an odd glowing coming from deep within the forest beyond the cemetery. After a bit of debate, they decided to investigate. They walked through the cemetery and entered the forest to try to get a better look. Before long, they realized they had ventured pretty far into the forest. They could start to make out some figures or shapes moving within the glow, but due to the distance in the trees, they could not clearly make out what was going on. They saw a little rise up ahead and thought if they could move a little closer, they might be able to get a better look. As they were about to move closer, they heard a stick break somewhere in the woods near their location and immediately turned and ran until they reached the safety of the street outside the cemetery. The following morning, one of the two individuals called the police to let them know what had happened. They were assured it was probably just kids partying out in the woods and it was nothing to be concerned about. As I returned from class that morning, there was a bit of a commotion on my floor as people were being filled in on the events of the previous night. We decided to go back and investigate. A group of about 8 of us decided to meet at midnight and return to the woods behind Oakland Cemetery. Being from the Chicagoland area, and this being my first year at the school, I had actually not heard much about Oakland Cemetery or the Black Angel up to that point, but as we ventured to the cemetery, I was brought up to speed. Just as I was filled in that night, I will also give you a bit of backstory on the mysterious Black Angel. The statue was erected in 1912 for a woman named Teresa Feldevert in memory of her son and husband. Her ashes were eventually buried there as well. There are many strange stories that surround the angel, but the one that I was told was Teresa vowed to her late husband that she would remain true to him forever, a vow that was apparently broken as a brilliantly colored statue began to tarnish and turn black. There were also rumors that the statue itself once looked to the sky, but turned its head to the ground in sadness when the vow was broken. The statue has become somewhat of a local legend. Every year people are dared to touch or even kiss the statue, an act that has been rumored to cause bad luck, miscarriages in pregnant women, or even death. Only a virgin is said to be immune from the statue's curse. As I stood with the Black Angel looming over me for the first time at just past midnight, knowing these stories were nothing more than nonsense, and that the tarnishing was caused by nothing more than normal oxidation, it was still pretty creepy. As we approached the tree line, there was no glowing coming from the forest, so we did our best to head in the direction they had ventured in the previous night before. As we entered, there was a little winding dirt path that led up a small hill and into the forest, adding to the foreboding nature of the journey. It was almost as if we were being led towards something. The question was, what? Your sense of time and distance gets somewhat skewed in the pitch black of the forest as your imagination starts to run a little wild, so I'm not sure actually how far we ventured into the forest before reaching the small rise they observed the night before, but it seemed pretty far. All of your senses become sort of hypersensitive, thinking that every little noise might be someone lurking in the shadows, or behind the next tree there might be somebody waiting to jump out at you. At this point, I started to realize how easy it would be to get disoriented if we had to run in a panic. And even if all this turned out to be nothing, getting lost in the woods was now a real possibility. Especially since as naive college students, almost none of us, myself included, thought to bring any sort of supplies or flashlight. This was also pre-smartphone or cell towers being everywhere, so there was no GPS or app that was coming to our rescue. We ventured forward to get a better vantage point, and we could start to see something in a clearing up ahead. It was not real easy to tell what we were looking at. As we approached, we discovered it was an old Native American-looking wigwam-type structure. In front of the structure, there was a large area of burnt debris as if there had recently been a large bonfire. We searched the site for any evidence of what might have been going on there the night before. Other than some burnt remnants and ash from the bonfire, there wasn't much to be found. Was it just students letting off steam during finals week? Maybe. Probably the most likely explanation. Just like legends surrounding the statue that made Oakland famous, there was probably a reasonable explanation for everything. But we have all seen enough scary movies to know that plenty of other more sinister possibilities exist. Cults, Satanists, aliens, underground inbred cannibals, or any variety of living dead or undead monsters lurking in the forest waiting to prey on unsuspecting college students. That's a template of most horror movies in existence, after all. If this story were optioned by Hollywood, any of those would make a great, based on actual events, end to the story. 75% true is close enough, right? Although we were never able to figure out what exactly happened in the forest behind Oakland Cemetery that night, we did get to experience a night of creepiness that will make for a great campfire ghost story for years to come, with or without an exaggerated Hollywood ending. Maybe even etching ourselves, if just a tiny little bit, into the ongoing lore surrounding Oakland Cemetery as we ventured beyond the Black Angel. Beyond the Black Angel. Hey, that would make a great movie title. Now if only we had a better ending.